Hey guys, it's Lou. I'm back for a Vinyl Finds video. Today I've got about 10 albums or so to show. They're a combination of online purchases and some record show finds. I didn't attend the record show, but my brother-in-law did, and he was looking for some stuff for me that I asked him to keep an eye out for. So here we go. First are some online finds, starting with this album from Them Crooked Vultures. Of course, this is the band with Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age, Dave Grohl, and John Paul Jones. I've had this album on CD, since it came out, and saw the price go down on Amazon for this to under $20. So decided to go for it. Double LP, really great pressing. It was this album. I started to become a fan of Queens of the Stone Age just prior to this album, and then really loved this, and got a little bit deeper into Queens of the Stone Age. So Them Crooked Vultures debut album. Another band that I'm a fan of is the Mars Volta. The Mars Volta started out, the two main guys, Cedric Bixler-Zavala and Omar Rodriguez-Lopez, started out in the band At the Drive-In, and when that band broke up, the Mars Volta was formed, and the other three members in At the Drive-In formed this band, Sparta. And I believe this is Sparta's debut album. I had never followed this band. Wiretap Scars? I'd nenever followed this band, but then I started to listen to some of their stuff and some performances that they'd made on a couple of late night TV shows, and actually quite liked it quite a bit. So I guess this band is fronted by Jim Ward. At the Drive-In eventually reformed for some shows, and then did an album which I've shown before in the last few years, but Jim Ward has since left the band. So this is pretty good. This is sort of your alternative. I guess these guys were around, I don't know, back in the 2000s or so. So we have Sparta. And I've shown some My Morning Jacket before. This is the latest solo album from their leader, Jim James. This is an all covers album. What is this called? Let's see the title on this, but it's an all covers album. Some of the covers on here, there's some Beach Boys covers. I think Willie Nelson. Funny how time slips away. I just wasn't made for these times. I haven't given this many spins, but it sounds pretty good. It has Jim James typical. Great vocals, and he definitely makes these songs hit their own for him. Like you don't think of the originals when I hear this anyway. And many of these songs I'm unfamiliar with the originals, so that's always a good thing when I'm listening to covers. So Jim James, I think it's called Tribute to, is his first covers disc was an EP of George Harrison songs, and it was called Tribute To. This is called Tribute to 2, and has a variety of covers of different artists. And then an album that I'm almost ashamed to say that I haven't had on vinyl up until this point. Big fan of this artist, Miles Davis, and of course Kind of Blue. Miles Davis is definitely the artist that I own the most CDs from, and this album included. And I finally decided to get this on vinyl. I'd sort of given up looking for it out in the wild, and just decided to go for this repress. I think this one, I'm not sure, it might be from 2015 or so, but it sounds really, really good. Really good pressing, really happy with it. And I mean, it's an essential jazz album, so I'm not going to say too much about that. I got that album at the same time that I got this Miles album, and this is not an official album. It's a compilation. Miles Davis plays ballads, and it's just, as it suggests, taking some of Miles, slower, moodier pieces. This spans across a few of his different bands, going back to the 50s and 60s. So some tracks on here: When I Fall in Love, My Funny Valentine, probably two of the more well-known ones, along with the Thelonious Monk composed Round Midnight. So some of this stuff has Coltrane on it, back to his first quintet, and some has his second quintet on here, which is Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Tony Williams. This is great. I really love Miles' ballad playing and his slower stuff. Miles loves to play the muted trumpet, and he plays that, I think, more times, probably about 60-70% of the time, as compared to open trumpet. But great stuff. Very lyrical, very easy to get into, very chilled out, relaxing stuff. And then I saw the price of this really drop quite a bit. I think this was originally a Record Store Day release at one point, and it's Big Star Third. And this is the volume 1, which is Big Star Third, Demos to Sessions to Roughs. So as the name suggests, double LP of demos and then some very rough mixes. A lot of this is Alex Chilton on vocals and acoustic guitar. Some of it includes some piano, and some of it is with the band. Of course, by this point, Chris Bell had left, but there are a few songs here with the rest of the band, with some drums and bass. But again, most of it is stripped down versions, but still really, really good versions. If you're a fan of Big Star, I would highly recommend this. And this is a proper double LP. It includes quite a bit of songs. I mean, side 1 has 7 songs, side 2 6, side 3 5, and then side 4 another 6 songs. So you're getting good value here on this one. Big Star Third, the Demos Volume 1. And then I have some record show finds. The Toronto Record Show, my brother-in-law, I wasn't able to attend though. My brother-in-law went to that, and he picked up some stuff for me. And pretty much I gave him a list of some stuff that I've been having difficulty finding out in the wild, and said, if you come across these bands, let me know, and depending on the price, I'll say either yay or nay. And one band, for some reason, I've been having a hard time finding is The Faces, with the band with Rod Stewart, Ronnie Wood, and the 3 guys from the Small Faces. So the story goes, the Small Faces were an English band in the late 60s, sort of that mod scene. I love the Small Faces. I've shown a lot of stuff from them. And then Steve Marriott left the band to form Humble Pie with Peter Frampton. And the 3 remaining guys, Ronnie Lane on bass, Ian McLagan on keyboards, and Kenny Jones on drums, joined up with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood, who came in on vocals and guitar, and they formed The Faces. Initially they were called The Small Faces as well, but then they just changed it to The Faces. And for some reason I've been having a hard time finding albums, hadn't had any in my collection, and so my brother-in-law picked up this one, which is The Faces' 3rd album, A Nod Is As Good As a Wink. And this has, let me see if I recognize any of these songs on here. Stay With Me, I guess, is the most famous song on here. So this is really good. This is sort of your Stonesy kind of rock, bluesy rock. Really, really dig this. And during a period where I think Rod Stewart was, before things started to go sideways, I think, for him. So The Faces, third album. And then he also found the Faces last album before they split up, called Ooh La La. And this is much more of the same kind of material. So really happy to get those for under 10. I think they were around $10 a piece, 10, $12. And then another band that I've been having trouble finding out in the wild is Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy, for some reason. I had in my collection, lucky enough to find Live and Dangerous, Jimmy the Fox, which was the album after Jailbreak, and the album Bad Reputation when they had gone down to a 3-piece. So I said, if you find any Thin Lizzy. So I was able to find this album, which is Thin Lizzy's last live album. It's called Life, and it's a double LP, and some songs repeat from the Live and Dangerous, because they were some of the more popular Thin Lizzy songs. The obvious ones, Boys Are Back in Town, things like that. But there's quite a bit. I think the majority, maybe 70-75% of this is stuff that's not on Live and Dangerous, so that's always good. I'd read some stuff about this not being such a great sounding album in terms of sound quality, but I had no problem with it. So really happy to get another Thin Lizzy in my collection. That's called Life. And then last but not least, the band that I was really hoping that he would have found for me is Hawkwind. And I've been trying to get as much Hawkwind as I possibly can. Again, couldn't find them out in the wild. And the Hawkwind that I'm looking for is really sort of the Lemmy era Hawkwind, which I guess is that sort of early to mid 70s Hawkwind. And this is, what's the name of this album? Hall of the Mountain Grill, and I think this is from 1974, maybe the third album they made with Lemmy. They had the live album Space Ritual, and then Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do. That was the first, I guess, studio album with Lemmy, and then this, I suppose, was the second one, I think. So this is great Hawkwind stuff. Like I said, been having trouble finding these out in the wild, and it was really great that he picked this up for me for, I think this one was $20, so pretty happy about that. Okay guys, thanks a lot. See you next time, and I'd appreciate any comments.